The royal protocol, absolute solemnity. But in a moment of deepest sorrow, one rule was broken. The mysterious act of this royal guard stirred whispers and questioning eyes, yet few knew the tearful truth behind it, a touching story only revealed when the veil of secrecy was lifted. Feel the moment takes you to the emotional peak of this historic event. Royal Guard breaks protocol at the Queen's funeral. Amid the solemn and silent atmosphere that blanketed the Queen's funeral, where thousands of eyes were fixed on the flag-draped coffin, a slight disturbance occurred, subtle, yet enough for those nearby to sense it. One member of the Royal Guard, renowned for their iron discipline and expressionless faces, appeared to act against every rule, every ritual forged through generations. The gaze of the young soldier, which should have remained forward in absolute reverence, subtly shifted downward. At first, no one noticed this small change. The crowd was too focused on the nation's immense loss, on the silent tears rolling down mourners' cheeks, on the sorrowful echoes of ancient hymns. But then, the irregularity became clearer. The soldier's right hand, instead of resting firmly on the sword hilt or clenched in the prescribed position, seemed to tremble slightly. A few people standing nearby began to sense that something wasn't right. Suspicious glances quietly rippled through the crowd. "Maybe he's not well?" someone whispered to the person next to them. "Or is the pressure too much?" another speculated. But no one dared speak aloud. No one dared break the sacredness of this historic moment. They only exchanged questioning looks, trying to decode what was happening with the Royal Guard. Time passed slowly, like a melancholy film. The funeral procession moved forward in silence, while the haunting sound of brass instruments lingered. And the young soldier still stood there, tall, unyielding, like a carved statue. But the strangeness in his gesture grew increasingly puzzling. Then suddenly, a movement left everyone who witnessed it stunned. The trembling hand slowly left its formal position and gently rose, not to wipe sweat, not to adjust his uniform, but to softly touch a small object hidden beneath the thick ceremonial cloak. From within the crowd, whispers began to rise. Curiosity and suspicion spread rapidly. What is he doing? What kind of gesture is that? Is he breaking protocol? Unspoken questions hung in the air, disrupting the solemn atmosphere. The looks of reverence and sorrow began to shift, to confusion, to judgment. Some even bore a trace of disapproval. They felt offended by the guard's strange behavior, the very soldier who was supposed to embody discipline and dignity. But amidst the murmurs and suspicious glances, a few people, perhaps those with more sensitive hearts, felt a faint ache. They looked at the young soldier's sorrowful face, at the flicker of confusion behind his otherwise stern eyes, and a question stirred within them. What could move a royal guard, trained to suppress all personal emotion, to act in such an unorthodox way? Could it be that behind this breach of ritual lies a story, a burden no outsider could yet understand? A subtle disturbance among the ranks of the royal guards did not escape the eyes of a retired military general standing solemnly nearby. His silver hair and time-worn face spoke of decades of service. Those eyes, witnesses to countless historic moments, now fixed on the young guard's unusual gesture, and suddenly a vague memory flickered in the general's mind. The image of another young soldier years ago, during a different funeral, the same resolute gaze, but carrying a sorrow too deep to voice. The general searched his memory, trying to piece together fragments that refused to form a full picture. He could only recall whispers of a poignant story, a silent sacrifice, a sacred bond of family that had once transcended protocol and tradition. He remembered the rumors, the divided opinions, but in the end, the truth had come to light and touched every heart that heard it. Meanwhile, the crowd's attention remained fixed on the young guard. Some began to feel uneasy, believing he was tainting the solemnity of the ceremony. Harsh criticism spread rapidly across social media. Photos and videos of his breach of protocol were shared at lightning speed, accompanied by cruel comments and harsh judgments. The weight of public opinion bore down heavily on the young soldier's shoulders. Yet amid the storm of condemnation, there were still voices that rose to defend him. They believed there must have been a justifiable reason behind his action, a reason outsiders could never fully understand. They urged for compassion and patience, calling on others to wait for the truth before rushing to judgment. As the situation grew increasingly tense, one small detail caught the eye of a veteran reporter who had covered the royal family for decades. He noticed, just above the sparkling medals on the young guard's chest, a tiny pin, almost hidden beneath the high collar. It was a forget-me-not flower badge, the symbol of remembrance and eternal love. That tiny badge seemed out of place on the formal, disciplined uniform of a royal guard. It stirred a deep curiosity in the reporter's heart. He recalled seeing a similar pin somewhere before, though the exact time and place escaped him. A gut feeling told him that this little flower might be the key to understanding the guard's unusual action. Quietly, the reporter began to investigate, searching through old records, digging through fading memories. He sensed that behind this so-called breach of protocol might lie a touching story, a hidden truth tied to a special connection between the young soldier and the late queen herself. The veteran reporter's quiet investigation eventually paid off. He found an old newspaper article from over 20 years ago, telling the story of a poor boy who bravely saved a lost little girl in the woods near Sandringham Castle. The girl was none other than one of the Queen's granddaughters. The boy's courage and kindness deeply touched the Queen, and in recognition, she granted him a special honor, a scholarship to a prestigious military academy. The young soldier standing guard by the Queen's casket was that very boy from years ago. The small forget-me-not pin he wore on his chest was the gift the Queen had given him, a reminder of his kindness and bravery. Over the years, he had cherished and preserved this little badge as a sacred memento. As the Queen's casket was lowered, the young soldier could no longer hold back his emotions. He bent down and gently touched the badge, an act not part of the official protocol, but one that came straight from the heart. It was a silent farewell, a deep expression of gratitude toward the one who had changed his life. When the truth was revealed, public opinion shifted entirely. The harsh criticisms were replaced with empathy and admiration. People were moved by the story of the soldier's gratitude and loyalty. Apologies flooded in from all corners. The retired general, upon learning the truth, could not hold back his tears. He recalled his faint memories, and now everything had become clear. He understood that sometimes actions that seem to break the rules carry with them touching stories and sacred emotions. The story of the young soldier and the forget-me-not badge became one of the most memorable moments at the Queen's funeral. It reminded everyone of the value of kindness, gratitude, and noble human connection, things that are sometimes overshadowed by rigid rituals and rules. The final image of the video could be a close-up of the forget-me-not badge on the young soldier's chest, or a photograph of the Queen smiling warmly. A soft narrator's voice fades in, leaving a profound message. Do not rush to judge a book by its cover. Sometimes, extraordinary actions conceal extraordinary stories and noble hearts. The story concludes, but the echo of compassion and understanding will linger in the hearts of viewers.